Come on, ask your questions. Let's do it. Let's talk about this.
What is the Black Beauty Collective exactly?
The Black Beauty Collective is a beauty retailer that features exclusively Black-owned brands. Currently, we have 100% Black women in the collective. And I love to celebrate and push and drive their product line. We have hair, we have skincare, we have body care, we have candle lines that tap into these different elements of beauty.
Your Instagram profile, you say that you're a startup guru. Give us a little bit about your background that led to you getting to the startup phase.
So my background, I was in the military. I jumped in and I became one of the best people in the office. I'm a how do you scale it in order to prepare to sell it kind of a person. And you can't sell if your SOPs is janky. You can't onboard new hires. You can't do the things that you need to do for the end game.
Welcome to the Omi Show. I am Omi Bell. We bring you authentic insight into the world of finance, pop culture, tech, and business news. Our guest today, Leslie Roberson, the founder and CEO of the Black Beauty Collective. She is also a serial entrepreneur, model, veteran, which I had no idea we were going to jump into that, corporate leader, and a mother. Leslie has consistently championed progress through entrepreneurship, recognizing the crucial need for quality beauty care tailored to the needs for Black women. Leslie established the Black Beauty Collective less than a year ago. Is that right? Less than a year ago?
Yes, our anniversary is actually April 8th. So we're coming up on about a month or so. Yes.
Well, congratulations, because it looks like you've done amazing things. Well, tell us, what is the Black Beauty Collective exactly?
It's the Black Beauty Collective is a beauty retailer that features exclusively Black-owned brands. And I'm in spirit of International Women's Month. I am excited to share that currently we have 100% Black women in the collective. And I love to celebrate and push and drive their product lines. And so, as we all know, there are limited opportunities to scale into big box retail. So you get smaller brands, indie brands that have lack of access to capital. In turn, they don't scale into retail often, so that customer base can't feel and experience their products. So the Black Beauty Collective allows brands to become a member of a collective. They get 100% of their retail sales. And a part of their membership, they are able to put their products on the shelf and engage with customers. And there's a host of other resources that come along with their membership, but that's the primary focus, is making sure they have access to retail. And so right now, Chicago, and soon enough, LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so when we say access to retail, are these physical locations, or are you getting them because we met you through the relationship with JCPenney. So is this you getting them into big box retail stores and doing like a broker negotiation in that way? Or is this more like your stores that they get into and they get to kind of start out on that path to bigger retail if they decide that?
That's exactly what it is. So they start off in the Black Beauty Collective, and then we identify other opportunities for them to scale into. And so the Black Beauty Collective is a physical location. We have a location in Hyde Park, Chicago. And then next month, we'll be launching our second location in Playa Vista, California.
Wow. How do you choose locations?
So Chicago, I lived in Chicago. I thought that Hyde Park was the perfect neighborhood to support an initiative such as, because I don't know if you're familiar, but this is where the Obamas lived before going into the White House. And so University of Chicago's there. It's an amazing, culturally developed neighborhood. It's like one of the top 18 neighborhoods globally. And so it was a perfect location for an initiative such as. And so we launched here. But as we're continuing to develop, we're wanting to focus less on the idea that they're Black founders, right? And focus more that a lot of these are clean beauty products and vegan or organic. So when you think, which area is supported for that? We think of the LA market, which is California. And so we have this beautiful location where we can focus on the organic components. Like, yes, it's a Black founder, but they make amazing products. And so that is giving us an opportunity to do so. So this is a major metropolitan city. And when you think smaller retailers, a lot of times we become hyper local in our market because we don't have a big marketing budget. So this gives them an opportunity to scale it. If I'm in Kansas City, I'm scaling it to Chicago, major market. I'm scaling it to LA, major market. Then Houston, major market. So when you think about the access to customer base and how to develop, that's how I'm envisioning this. And so that's what we're doing and why we're choosing these kinds of markets to move into.
I love that because there's also not a lot of retailers that grow with people. And so people end up either locked in and over their head with trying to meet the demands of some bigger retailer, or they feel like they can't scale because the smaller retailer stays small. So I really love how you're thinking about franchising out into these bigger markets. What are some of the things that you face though? Because I get like they're running their business, but you're also running your business. So you
Mhm.
also are responsible for sort of getting the traffic to the site, the place, and maintaining, all the back end pieces of that. So
Absolutely.
tell me how that's going. How is it working for you?
So it's always hard in retail, right? Especially when you have like a brick and mortar store. I mean, this isn't just like a Leslie thing. This is always
Right.
determining a creative way to engage the audience to bring them in. And so, one of the things that I'm hyper focused on is the kind of location and the organic marketing traffic because that's a part of it. And I've been fortunate enough to have a team. So I have a digital marketer, someone or a marketer that hyper focuses on all marketing. We have a retail ops manager. Their job is to focus 100% on those sales to make sure that the beauty advisors are hitting the targets. And so we literally run this as a traditional retailer, although the model is a bit different. And so the goal always is to have eyes on the revenue that the business is generating from a customer traffic base so that we're making sure we are really supporting the entrepreneurs that are a part of the collective.
Yeah. So you're in Chicago. Do you also sell online?
We
Is that
do. We have
separate?
the
Okay.
blackbeautycollective.com. Absolutely.
All right. Blackbeautycollective.com. Make sure. And if you're listening to this in Chicago, where it's in Hyde Park, what's the address?
5305 South Hyde Park Boulevard. So if you're in Chicago or even in the surrounding areas, we get people that drive in all the time. Come check us out. It's a pretty dope location. And it's an experience curated with the Black consumer in mind, but for everybody.
You know what? We're going to be in Chicago. So on Friday, I will have staff in Chicago. If you do have anything, if you have anything like that we could put in our bags or something, I'll be down to because we're doing a dinner on Friday. But if you have anything about or any materials that we can maybe get from you, we can talk offline about it. I would love to have them be able to put that or just share it somehow. And then I think we're gonna have a competition in Chicago soon too. So
So
it'll be later this year actually. So
keep me
I will.
posted.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hit you up to be on a panel. So
Yes.
so be one of the judges. Because are you still in Chicago?
Yes, I live in Chicago for now. And so I'll be
Okay.
here. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna make sure they hit you up. Okay, one more question about the business before I jump into questions about you. Question about the umbrella of beauty. I feel like it sort of feels like it's a category that's like ever expanding.
Yeah.
So are we talking hair and face and like hair and skin and nails and like how far does beauty go?
So we're talking about everything under the scope of beauty, including wellness products. I think that for consumers, especially Black women, when you kind of start narrowing it down, I think it's important for us to drive the wellness element. And so we have products that tap into the wellness part. Like I'm a yogi. And so a lot of folks don't know that I'm a yogi. So I meditate, I'm pulling in candles, I'm pulling in, some people pull in crystals. Like there's a whole different element. So it's beauty inside and out and making sure we're driving it. And so any category that fits the need. So we have hair, we have skincare, we have body care, we have candle lines that hit and tap into these different elements of beauty.
I love that. So I would say you have everything that makes you feel beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about self confidence and imposter syndrome. In
Oh,
your Instagram. Oh, wait. Did that ring?
It did. It does all the time. Not necessarily for me, but for just the spaces I've existed in. So it always rings. Come on, ask your questions. Let's do it. Let's talk about this.
So, because you in your Instagram profile, you say that you're a startup guru. And
Yeah.
oftentimes people are afraid to call themselves a guru or expert, depending on what it is, especially considering that like you are now coming up on a year in business. Where do you draw your confidence from? And like give us a little bit about your background that led to you getting to the startup phase.
Yeah. So I draw my confidence because if I don't believe in me, I promise nobody else will drink the Kool-Aid. If you don't believe it's you super dope, nobody else will believe it. And I think it's important to come into the room with that thought process. So my background, I was in the military. I worked in security, like not the security, but the S2 where we process security clearances. But that wasn't my original job. Literally, I went to through boot camp and training to be a Patriot missiles controller. I was responsible for a 4 canister missile launcher. And when I got to my regular duty station, the person in charge of telling us where we would report looked at me and said, "Oh, you look like a girl. I'm gonna stick you in this office." Literally. And I was like, okay, okay. And so I was in college at the time. I really got into standard operating procedures. I was thrown into something I had never done before at 21, 2021 time age category. And I jumped in and I became one of the best people in the office because I was working at a deficit. I didn't have the knowledge base. So I made sure I began understanding how to perform the job. So I became one of the best because I was so intentional. And so starting all the way back then, I kind of was guided into HR because I got into policies and SOPs and all that jazz and process. I went into to finish my degree in HR, got my MBA or leadership. I'm a leader just naturally. That's who I am. I lead from the front. Like I'll do it first. If I ask you to do it, I'm going to do it too. That's what kind of leader I am, have been. I got into talent acquisition in my corporate career. And so my focus has been diversifying teams. I am hyper passionate about making sure teams and corporations are diverse. I lead with that in any interview. If you hire a Leslie, you want to diversify your team. So, and that could mean a variety of things for me, whether it's nationality or if you're a veteran or if you're disabled, whatever that means, my thoughts go to how can we shift this because we are stronger when you have diverse thoughts and experiences. It makes you stronger as a group. So that level of thought process pivots into this business because I'm looking at an industry that feels and looks one way. So how do I begin taking these principles and deploying them into an industry? And how do I support the people involved so that they have an opportunity to be visible as well? And so that kind of background, and I've done these things. So I have to walk as a Black woman into rooms where maybe everybody is all white males and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I need you guys to get on board and walk them on the journey and just be confident in my own skin. Because if I'm not confident, they won't believe what I'm saying. They won't drink the Kool-Aid. So I have to exist that way. And so when you say startup guru, yeah, startup guru, because I've started up a lot of businesses and because of my background, I can look at, I'm a policy SOP standardization. How do you scale it in order to prepare to sell it kind of a person? And you can't sell if your SOPs is janky. You can't onboard new hires. You can't do the things that you need to do. You're not going to be able to be positioned for the end game. So I'm all in everybody's business. Like, so tell me about how you're hiring people. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do you get staff when you don't really have a big budget? Like, how do you do this? And so, yeah, startup guru, absolutely.
I love that. I love it. What do you think the impact of the attacks on DEI will be in corporations?
I think I've been watching the industry as it's shifting. Some of the things that the different non-for-profits are experiencing, just what's happening on the landscape. I think that without intentionality. DEI is a concept that truly should be embedded in the organization.
Yeah.
It should not exist as a separate entity. It should be embedded in the fabric of an organization if you really want to talk about it. But
Mm-hmm.
the reality is, prior to George Floyd and that year, that time frame, it hasn't been embedded. It's like we kind of keep it where it's visible, something we should be talking about, but nobody's really. It's like an outlier to the overarching mission. And so corporations have to begin thinking about how to weave DEI into the fabric of who they are. And without that, there'll always be a gap. And the idea of DEI is always evolving because it could be creating more positions for women because it's a white male dominated industry. It could be people with disabilities. It could be people that are a part of the LGBTQ plus community. It begins to evolve. And that's what we're seeing where there becomes like a less prioritization of DEI because the concept is evolving again. And so I think that it's important. People that work in the organization, especially those that are in different, like not in position, have to keep an eye out on it to make sure that they're having those conversations consistently and not dropping the ball. And it's not a DEI department. It's me as a recruiter. It's you as a janitor. It's you as a whatever. So, yes.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that one of the things for me is like, it should not be viewed as some type of charitable decision. It's not like, oh, well, and it should also not be like a pity thing. Like, oh, these men are not being fair. We need more women. It's like, nah, y'all, we need the best team. Do you want to be the best team? Do you want to be the best company? Do you want to really make the most money? Right. So if you want that, then you need the best people at the table. And the best people is not all one kind of person that came from all one place with all one kind of education, with all one, like, it's just not.
That's right. That you are 1,000% correct when you say that. That's why I've been focusing, even before George Floyd, I focused on diversifying teams. That's what I do because of this reason. In order to have and to make the most money, when you can even just look at the beauty industry. So it's a $60 billion plus industry. Black consumers spend about 11% of that, according to McKinsey. So we only own Black founders are only like less than 1.5% of owners. Black people have to drive on average like 13 to 15 additional minutes than the average consumer to be able to gain access to products. And then the likelihood of someone being there when they arrive to said location is like 1 to 3 for it to be an advisor that can actually help you. Now imagine a group of people spending that much money in beauty despite all the obstacles. What would happen if you just hired a few people that actually could understand and answer questions? Because I'm a recruiter. If you have a team of folks that can answer baseline questions and match my skin color, that means you've hired people that are not qualified. So if you hire people that can actually help, right, and you're intentional about your hiring practices, and then if you give other founders opportunities so that consumers have access, imagine how much revenue that would generate for the business if we were not catered to but considered. So that is how I think about it. When you talk about bottom line and investment, imagine if this group of folks that have been overlooked were just considered when you were hiring. It would increase and impact your bottom line, hands down. But you have to have leaders in position that are thinking about the business that way. And not just hire, oh, well, this person, and maybe they're monolithic, maybe they all look one way, and maybe it's not their experience to think about something like that in that untapped demographic and a way to make money. But that's a part of it. That's a part of the experience. And so just from a recruiting lens, I'm like, you should think about who you're hiring because you want to make sure their train of thought is alignment with making money. Not necessarily, because it's not all just focus on the pity party of diversity. There's a group of people that are willing to spend and probably could. There's a white area. You walk into like airports, literally, if TSA takes my products coming through, you can walk through the entire airport and not find.
You would never be able to replace it. Yeah.
There is a complete white area there. And so like, how do you which is money. Because depending on where I'm flying, Denver, Colorado, I might not be able to get any more products, which will
That's right.
literally ruin my vacation. So, because now my hair is all
Hawaii.
any pictures, Hawaii, depending on
Yeah.
where we're going, you might not find anything. So there's a lot of money left on the table because everybody's focused on the bottom line. I get it. But how do you
But
tap?
are they though? Because you can't be focused on the bottom line solely for real if you don't have a diverse. I got questions. We got to take a quick break. But if you saying you focus on the bottom line, but
Yeah.
your team is not diverse, you are lying. That is hands down. Now, if
But
you are selling your product, yeah,
take a break.
you're lying.
I know we got to
I
take a
know.
break.
Hold up. We got to go to a quick break. My guest today, Leslie Roberson, we're chopping it up about what is happening in this world. Okay, but we'll be right back after this. And actually, we're going to transition into the Ask Omi segment. But we're going to finish this conversation as well. So 'cause we got so much we can talk about when it comes to this. We might have to have a whole another show
Oh
just
my God.
on this topic. So y'all keep it locked right here. We'll be right back after this. It is time for the Ask Omi segment where the tables are turned and she gets to ask me whatever she wants to ask me. I'm in the hot seat. It could be personal. It could be business strategy. It could be insight. It could be what I'm doing this weekend. It really doesn't matter. One of the things I want to say though, before we jump into that, is I loved it's not about catered to, but considering, right? I love that because that's a different way for us to talk about even like the attacks on race-based programming, right?
Mhm.
It's like this is not about programs that are designed to advance people who have been historically marginalized. Is not about catering to people who have been historically marginalized. It is about creating the consideration for the people who have been historically marginalized. It's like the work that we're doing at Black Girl Ventures is about, considering that less than 1% of Black founders receive venture capital, we're going to need to take these steps. Considering that less than 2% of women receive access to venture capital, we're going to need to take these other steps. It is about considering that historically things have been like this. We're going to need to do something else.
Absolutely.
And so I'm actually going to start using that language.
As you should, because it's not to say by doing this, I'm going to take this group and put them way above everybody else. It's to say, I'm taking you in consideration enough where we will provide assets and opportunities for you to be able to just not even level the playing field, because the reality is there's such a gap. It'll be difficult to level it, but to give you a starting point to help you begin to level it, right? We're not trying to give anybody anything to say we're going to make you better than everyone else. No. Or we're going to consider you or take you over everybody else. It's just opportunity. We're considering you. We're thinking about where you currently are, what has historically been, and this is what we would like to try to accomplish in terms of growth, right? And diversity and a little bit more inclusion. Not a pity party, but just a little bit more inclusion.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I'm with you. 1,000%.
Yeah. All right, so we've reached that moment. I don't know if you have what you have prepared or if you have some thoughts,
Woo,
but you get to ask me whatever you want to ask.
Yes. So from what I gather, you have been doing some amazing things with Black Girl Ventures. What would you say is your number one win? Like when you are like 65 and retiring and you're like looking back over your career from this point back, what would you say is like, that was my number one win? And it could be monetary, it could be personal, it could be spiritual, it can be however you describe it. But what has been the win for you?
The number one win for me is the way that I have been to creatively, legally remove barriers of access to capital from different directions. So, what we do with our pitch competition, which is like people pitch and then the audience votes with their dollars and then we turn that capital into a grant and give it to those founders. Well, that did not exist in the way that we're doing it before we started doing it for businesses, right? I even had people ask, like, will the general community give to businesses? And it's like, yes, they will. We've done it. At that point we had done it at least 10 times. Now we've done it, over 40 times. And by the time I retire, we have done it over 100 times. So I think that like we absolutely know they will do it. And the community, being a part of that support system for small businesses. So I would say that. Also, what we do with pull up and pitch, which is just literally we put a mic in the community. You walk up. If you pitch for 60 seconds, there's 3 judges. If you get 1 thumbs up, you get $200. You get 2 thumbs up, you get $250. You get 3 thumbs up, you get $500, and you get to go to the next round. In that next round, you can pitch for up to $10,000 or $20,000, depending on the partner, all based off a 60-second pitch. The ways that we're able to give out money so quickly to the community and based off of their presentation, that is, I'll go ahead and say that is unmatched and was not happening at all. Capital has a long cycle of acquisition. So if it is like, oh, I need access to a loan, or I need access, all of that has months and months and months of diligence and conversations and all that before you can get access to capital. I wanted to shorten that acquisition cycle. I wanted to lower that boundary, that barrier to access to capital. And I feel like I've successfully done that. So when I look back, I would say the people that we funded, the ways that I was able to move that capital and get big corporations to move it with me, the ways I'm able to work with the Nike, work with Pimco, work with, just big brands, big brands that are global brands, TikTok, some of the biggest brands on the planet that we work with to get this work done. That would be my second, like, yeah, I did that.
I love that. What would you say if you could go back and do anything over again? What would you go back and change? Like, that didn't go like I wanted it to go. What would you go back and modify?
That's a hard one for me because I'm not one that lives with regrets. I feel like everything is data. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to say that I wouldn't have done something, but oof. I don't know. I mean, there's some people that I think out from a leadership standpoint, if I could go back, I would shift the way that I led certain people. Now, I'm a firm believer that nobody's here. If they're not here, they weren't meant to be here, all those kinds of things. So I don't necessarily feel like there's anybody that I want to go back and grab back again that quit. And there's some people that I had to let go. There's some people that left because they went to their dream jobs or like great jobs, or they just got new opportunities. And I'm like, dang, I want them back. But anybody that left on terms that were not the most positive, or that I had to fire them, I'm not necessarily looking to get them back at BGV. I may want to work with them in other capacity, but I would say from a leadership standpoint, my evolution as a leader, I was not always great at communicating. I'm very hardcore about what I do. And so that I didn't always give grace to people as people, I also have, when you build a company in the beginning stages, you pretty much do every aspect of it. And because of that, my maybe ways of communicating haven't been as empathetic as they could have been to some of my former employees. And so if there's one thing that I would say that I wish I could do over, is really evolving as a leader quicker and developing empathy quicker and developing better articulation in managing people, where like being direct is cool and you can still be direct and have empathy at the same time. So if there's anything I would shift, it would probably be that. I would have wanted people to feel like I treated them, even though I didn't feel like I treated them. My intention was not for me to treat them terrible or bad or offensively or any of that. That definitely is the way that it landed for some people. And in misunderstanding of like my hardcoreness of what I was trying to accomplish and what I was trying to push through them to accomplish, which may or may not have been fair. So I think that's probably the one. That's definitely the one learning piece that I would say, if I could do things over, I would be better at that.
Do you think that because of what you just said and what you just described, how does that play into the narrative that a lot of times Black women become difficult to work with or whatever it is? Like, how are your thoughts centered around it, right? Because on the one hand, we're hyper focused on set goal and task. And the reality is, if you were a white male, it may not come off the same way if you were direct and you didn't have that level of empathy or feel good in the conversation flow. So, what are your thoughts centered around those two worlds of existence?
Yeah, so I was talking to my new C-suite about this recently. I've heard people say like working for a black woman was one of the hardest bosses that they've ever had.
Yeah,
And I was asking them, and I don't think any of them had ever worked for a black woman before. I had a black woman boss that was one of the hardest bosses I've ever had. And when I had to unpack that, like, well, what was hard about it? It was because she was just telling me the straight up truth very directly. And I had worked in environments that were majority white environments or majority Eurocentric, in the sense that,
yeah,
like, even if my team was majority black, it was still a Eurocentric run type of environment, which means that things were a lot more passive aggressive. Confrontation was not okay.
yeah,
Even if you tell people the truth, that was too confrontational. And so I think that, when we say, and, as I develop the culture of Black references, and I say, I want you to bring your whole self to work, and like, I want you to feel, different here than you had to feel in other environments. What I realize is when you tell people bring your whole self to work, you have to manage their whole selves. And not everybody's ready for their whole self to be managed. So in that sense, on top of, the idea behind like, oh yeah, you, maybe being harsh, you're also super vulnerable. So it's like I have you in a very vulnerable state while I'm also telling you truths you were not ready to visit. And my communication of that truth is not sugar-coated by passive aggressiveness that you're used to. So that all feels like attack.
yeah,
Keeping it 100.
it,
It's not, and that is an experience that the person has to own.
yeah,
Like, right? Because at the end of the day, that is not the intention of the communication. But because it's so truthful, because it's so much like fact based on the table, versus
yep,
it being sort of like, oh, well, let's talk around this. Well, could you think about what did you, how did you, what if we, could I ask you a question? What if this question lands like this? And we, like, it's not that. It's like, look, you didn't get the thing done on time. What's up? You know what I mean? Like, and that's like, or hey, this thing, hey, or it's like, and the fact finding can feel like blame finding, and that's not, and I get how that can be uncomfortable,
yep,
but it's not the intention of fact finding to find what feels like the blame is really finding out the root of the problem. Because for me, I tell everybody I work with, you can make a mistake, that's fine. What I want to understand is your thought process, because if your thought process is off, you're going to continue to make mistakes. So
that's
getting
right.
something wrong once or twice, whatever, that's cool. Tell me how you're thinking about this, because if
Yeah,
we could unlock that mindset piece, then I can get you to think about this different, and then we won't have to visit this anymore,
that's good.
right? And
Yeah,
so I think but that is not easy to hear. Not everybody wants to work on that mindset. Not everybody wants to hear that they ain't really showing up on time or showing up all the way, or people think they are showing up. People think they are doing it right. And you're not doing it right, Slim. I don't know how to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, so I think
yo,
that there's also,
why is this the ploy of all female founders? Like, you're describing it. This is it. You just entered my organization. Like 1,000%.
and you're so right. So what I realized too, based off of what I said before about like, I could have been kinder, I could have had more empathy. Also the fact is, and I had one of our founders who used to work for me. One of the women that used to work for me, who is now, she's a founder too.
Mhm.
And after she left, she's like, now I get it. But while she was with me, she was like, what? So one of the things she said in my conversation with her, she's like, look, when that black woman asks you to do the thing, just do the thing. She's like, it ain't yes to empathy, yes to your feelings, all that. But like, just do the thing that you were asked to do. And let me be clear. People are not ready
Yeah,
to get feedback from black women.
they're not.
I mean, like, let me be like, I'm gonna just keep it 100. You're not ready.
Yep,
Like, so I've had my assistants, and if any of them watch this and hear this, they gonna probably have some stuff to say. But yeah, I want what I want when I need it done. I'm running a multi-million-dollar organization, and I'm trying to help hundreds of people. When I
that's right.
say do the thing, I need you to do the thing like I told you to do the thing. Now, if I don't need to tell you to do the thing, then show me that. And if you
That's right.
haven't shown that, or you keep showing that I need to tell you the thing, then I'm telling you the thing. And I think that's where, like, you didn't read your job description. It says 24/7. My job description for my EA says 24/7. And that's mainly when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So when you come back at me like, oh, well, hey, it was this time of day, Slim, look, I'm paying you what I'm paying you because this is what I need to be
That's
done when I need to be done. What it takes, you know what's okay, Lord, if you could tell this to the spot. So let me say this last piece.
got you.
I know you got me because and I try to not talk about this as much as possible publicly because
Yeah.
I know there's people out there with hurt feelings. I know there's
Yes.
people out there who got something to say about how I treated them. You know what I mean? And so, and I know that, and I own that, and and I say where the apologies are necessary, I got you.
That's right.
However, you got to own your experience as well at the end of the day. So I will apologize for how I went about things, but these decisions that I had to make were decisions I had to make. So there's that. But what I say is, it is beyond me how people can have such a gung ho support for Black women. Oh, but you know that until they have to work for them.
Don't
Oh
say that.
no, like until that Black woman got to give you direction, you all blackety black. Oh no, because Black women should, and Black women should have, and Black women should be, and people should be treating Black women like this until you got to serve her.
That's right.
And then you find yourself challenged by having to serve a woman that has to uphold as much of the things that you know. Oh, Black women got to be faster, smarter, more, whatever. You know that. You know that's what's on my plate.
Let me ask you a question. Do
Okay, I'm
you
sorry.
think, because of that, right? Because of what you just described, do you think, because people feel that way when they're coming in, this gun ho spirit of Black women and support a Black woman and we should be, and this is the visibility, do you think they show up and work for you differently than they would an organization that isn't led by a Black woman? Do you think that, like in the back of my head, it's always ringing like, you would never do this at this organization.
You
Like,
would never.
you would never do it. And I know you wouldn't.
You would
Do
never
you think
say
you get
this.
special treatment? Like, you wouldn't expect this. You wouldn't demand this. You just wouldn't. Fill in the blank.
1000%. Okay.
It sits on me. Like, would you do this elsewhere?
100%.
Because I'm looking at your background and you've worked in these companies for years, and I know you would never consider.
No, you didn't talk to them like that. I know you didn't send them this. I know you didn't send them this email.
I know
you didn't send that white man this email you sent me. I know you did.
But why? What is that?
You know what it is? It's just like when you go to a restaurant, you got a Black server and they automatically become your homegirl. I don't like that either. I tell them, nah, Slim, I'm not your queen. I'm not your girl. I'm not your, hey, girl. Yeah, girl. Nah. Serve me like you're supposed to serve me because you're a server. And I don't mean that to be demeaning. I just mean to like, don't switch up for me, service level. You know, I'm down for you to break character and tell me the real about what's going on this menu. But you should be authentic everywhere you go. If you know, like, don't, I don't like that either. It's that feeling of like, so here's what I say. It's a hard thing to try to reason through just because the camaraderie and the communal nature of Black people is essential to who we are.
Yes. I think that's it. I think you hit it. That's it. That is a part of it. So even though it's happening in a positive way, right? Bring your authentic self to work here. We want to see your authentic self. Be the best version of said you. But I also think that when conflict happens, you're going to get the authentic thing.
Yeah, this conversation is so needed, I think, to be had because I'm hoping that somebody out there who is the employee that does walk around with certain levels of entitlement around Black people hear me too, right? I'm not hoping that the people who just agree with me hear me. I'm hoping the people who don't agree with me also hear me because we need to jar more of this conversation into space. So, but for today, that's all we got. So I appreciate you so much. And just the conversations we're able to have, but also that you have created the Black Beauty Collective. We look forward to that franchising out into LA and other places. And who knows, maybe at some point in your business model, there'll be franchise opportunities for other people. Okay. But thank you so much for joining me, Leslie.